Artlist.io.
All right, hello everyone. Good evening, and welcome to another episode of My True Crime Obsession. And here I am. It's October and happens to be one of my favorite seasons of the year. We're coming into Halloween season, and it's all about ghosts and ghouls and witches and haunted houses. And it seems apropos today to talk about true crime obsessions and things that might be haunted. And today I have two special guests joining me via Zoom. And we are going to talk with them today. But before I get into that, I wanted to just talk about how people are obsessed with true crime. There may be many different reasons why people are obsessed with true crime. It could be because they feel a kinship with the victims, and they want to do crime victims' rights advocacy like myself. Some other people may be into true crime for other reasons, whether it be an obsession with the serial killers or the psychology behind murders and why murders happen. One thing always stands out, though, are the artifacts from famous murders. When we think about famous murderers such as O.J., we might think of his Bronco going down the freeway. Or if we think about John Wayne Gacy, we picture him dressed up like a clown in his pictures. Or if we think of Ted Bundy, we often think of him on crutches or driving around in his VW Bug. But there are many famous crimes that have happened in the 20th century. And one of those crimes was the Manson murders that took place in Los Angeles, California on the evening hours of August 8th, August 9th, August 10th, 1969 in Beverly Hills, up in Benedict Canyon. And today I have two guests with me that are going to talk extensively about not only that crime, but an artifact from the house where Sharon Tate and four others were killed on the night of August 9th, early morning hours of August 9th, 1969. So the first guest I'd like to introduce you to, and he's joining us via Zoom, is Georgie Smith, and he wrote two books, and I have them here with me today. Hi, we have a friend here. Hi, guys. I have my sidekick here. How you doing? So Georgie Smith is an author and a historian. He has written two books that I have here. Actually, he's probably written more books. I'm sorry, George, but we have two books here that I have signed by him. And the first book is a vintage look at the historical house of 10050 Cielo Drive, and the other is the House of Sharon Tate. And both are excellent resources if this is a case that you're interested in, a murder case that you're interested in. It provides excellent graphics and information of the house. My other guest today is Christopher Moore, and Christopher Moore actually owned the door to the Sharon Tate house, or I should say 10050, the house that Sharon Tate and her friends were murdered in.
Lucky.
And he just sold that door at auction for a substantial price. And we're going to get into the details of that today. But before we do, I just want to introduce George and Christopher and thank them so much for being on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
What's up, guys?
Yes, this is my friend. This is Nick. And Nick just got back from California, from L.A., as a matter of fact.
I did.
Yes, and both Nick and I are very much knowledgeable about the Manson murders and talked extensively about it in a previous episode. So Nick wanted to be here today to speak with you as well. But before we, George, I'm just going to turn it over to you for a minute if you want to talk a little bit about the history of the house.
Well, the house was built in 1941 and by J.F. Watkins, and I think he had started the house. I'm not really sure exactly how the story goes, if Michelle had it designed or if it was already in progress, but from what I, kind of read, that it was already being in progress of being built, and she saw it and liked it, and so she went up there and I think wanted, tweak it, put her style into it. And anyway, she moved in September of 41. And so she lived there, I think, until 44. And then she sold it to a couple by the name of Dewey's.
Yes.
And then from there on, it just kind of went into rentals. The people that owned it used it as a rental property. But she lived there, and she loved the house. And there's been a lot of magazines, House Beautiful, and several other ones, even the foreign ones, that featured her and that house and talked a lot about it. And even the newspapers, and that's how I found out most of my history is from the archives and the LA Times. And I just went back as far as I could go to find out, all about the house and, its history. And, it's kind of sketchy here and there in different years, but
Okay.
in the beginning, it was very well documented,
Yeah.
But I love that the part of it, and I wouldn't have known about the house had it not been for the murders of
Hmm.
Sharon Tate,
Same with me.
unfortunately. But
Yes.
Oh, that's what put it on the map, really.
Yes, it
yeah,
did.
it did. It was a party house. I mean, it was pretty well known to people in Hollywood, but to the average person, no, it wasn't known, and until that happened. But had it not been for that, I would have never known about the house.
Hmm.
But since I have, in 2010, I started really researching it and just doing everything I could to find things on it, going through all the magazines, and you get hints from this one and that one, and there's just amazing stories on the house. The house was like a movie star from the very beginning, and it's probably one of the most talked about houses besides the White House.
Mm.
Any house, out there. I don't know of another movie star house that's been talked about as much as this one.
Well, also, it changed the whole landscape of Hollywood. After those
Yeah,
murders, that's when, a lot of like stars and stuff started getting their own security, and it really did, it just changed everything.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Both Nick and I have been to the house. I unfortunately went to the house. I visited in 2009 for the 40th anniversary of the Manson murders, and then back in 2019 for the Manson murders. I've always regretted the fact that I never got to see the original structure, because it's just, for anybody that doesn't know, it was such a beautiful French country house high up in the hills of Beverly Hills,
Yeah.
overlooking Hollywood. Just absolutely gorgeous. And then I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, when 1994, I believe here I have in my notes that Weintraub, somebody by the name of Weintraub, had purchased the house and changed it into, he named the house Bella, La Bella, I
Villa
think.
Bella.
Yes, Villa Bella. And he sold it to Jeffrey Franklin, the producer of Full House. And then just the house was a monstrosity. I mean, it is a beautiful structure, but it's just such an eyesore, I believe, in my opinion, as
Yeah,
compared to
out of
what was
place.
originally there.
Yeah, it was beautiful.
Yes.
Yeah, it's an out of place house. They overbuilt that property, and they're doing that all over Benedict Canyon. I mean, it's
Yes.
changed from. I mean, I'm so thankful that I did get to see it before it was taken down, and
Yes.
and I've taken hundreds of pictures of it, and I just wish that I had got to go on property and go in the house. And I have friends, that have been in there and tell me about it, and
The
you know,
original or the new one?
original,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
And,
Yes.
in 1975, I guess my friend, one of my friends, we were there at about the same time. I didn't know him until just, a few years back, but he told me he had went there, and a friend of his was watching over the property, like the caretaker.
Yes.
And so he let him in the house, and he was all excited, and he just thought it was kind of spooky, eerie, though,
Oh, I'm sure, given its
because of what
nefarious
had
history.
happened, and it was empty at the time. So
Yes.
I don't know exactly. It was probably in between tenants, but
I don't know who was in the house when I saw it. I was there, I'm going to say probably like around 1990, 91. My parents had took me to California, and that was about the time I was like, at that time I was like 13 years old, and I just started reading like Helter Skelter, and I
yeah,
really was like mesmerized with the whole thing. And my dad wouldn't take me to Spawn Movie Ranch, but he did take me to the La Bianca house, and he took me to,
yeah,
the Cielo Drive house. So I did. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know who was in there then, but the original structure was there.
Yes, yes. I think one of the fascinating things too, you had mentioned that the house had been rented out multiple times since its inception. I mean, and in my research, I understand that Lillian Gish and her mother actually lived in the house after Michelle Morgan, around 1946, while she was filming Duel in the Sun.
Yeah,
Yes.
I thought it was 46 too. It was actually 45 because
Oh, okay.
the paper she sued them for some rent control was going on then, and I guess they had overcharged her. So
Oh,
that was
wow.
interesting little thing. And but she, I guess, lived there about 7 months.
Mm-hmm.
But that's kind of most people, they live there for about a year.
Mm-hmm.
But some people like Hussey, Olivia Hussey, she lived there for about 4 years, and so did Bob Esty.
Yes.
He lived there about 4 years too.
Yes. Yes. Some other famous residents I know were Cary Grant, Diane Ken, I believe Henry Fonda, if I'm not mistaken.
Henry Fonda, yeah, he lived there in the
Yes.
guest house.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then sometime in the mid 60s, Rudy Altobelli, when he had purchased the house, he had rented it to Candace Bergen and her boyfriend. I'm sorry.
Terry Melcher.
Yes, thank you, Terry Melcher, and that's the Manson connection.
That's the connection, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And then I guess in January 20th, 1968, Sharon Tate married Roman Polanski, and she was living in another house in California, in Beverly Hills, correct? And
Summit Ridge. Yeah, she was living in Patty Duke's.
yes, Patty Duke's house. Yes, they had filmed the movie together, Valley of the Dolls. Yes, yes.
Yeah, she wanted that house, but
Uh-huh.
but the husband of Patty Duke, he was fighting over the price of it with Roman. So I guess Roman just screw it.
Yes, yes.
Lucky they didn't get the
And
house.
it's too bad. It's too bad he didn't give in, and paid the price, because Sharon Tate would have been alive. Probably, who knows who would have been alive, had that
Patty
taken
Duke
place.
might have died.
So that
Yeah.
brings us to obviously August 9th, 1969, and obviously the murders happened. And for anybody who's studied the murders, they know that, that Susan Atkins had written in blood on the front door the word pig in Sharon Tate's blood. I'd like to speak, give some time to Christopher Moore, but just leading up to 1991, 92, I believe, that Downward Spiral, 9 Inch Nails. Trent Reznor had recorded that album, and Trent Reznor had moved back to New Orleans, he knew the house was going to be destroyed and something built in its place, and took the front door with him, correct?
As far as I know, yes.
Yes,
That's
then
the story.
Okay,
I don't know if he paid for it or if he just got it for free, but he brought it back to New Orleans with him.
Would you like to speak a little bit about how you came to acquire the door?
It basically started from kind of a love-hate relationship with memorabilia and also true crime. And so at one point in time, I was looking towards, there was a Manson vest at one point in time that was supposedly worn by him during the trial or before the trial, and then the girls had shaved their head and they'd woven flowers with their hair in flowers onto the vest. And I was kind of interested in that from a historical standpoint, same kind of deal. I spent a couple of years trying to find it. It kind of just never happened. And so I was living in New Orleans, and I knew that the door had ended up right around. Actually, I lived a couple blocks from where the studio was, and I happened to be walking by there on a daily basis for a while. And I know the door wasn't there at the time, and I was wondering, kind of like what had happened to the door. And so I kind of got obsessed for a little while about the idea of finding the door and trying to get it, somehow. And so I kind of did a little bit of research and figured out the doctor had bought the building. And so I emailed the doctor that owned the building. And I asked him, basically via email, like if he had the door. And it was the funny part was it was an AOL address. And so I was like, maybe he'll never respond. And he didn't respond.
I have AOL, so
I just upgraded about 2 years ago.
Yeah. Well, it took him about 2 months to respond, and he just kind of responded with, "Yeah, why do you want to know?" And I kind of gave him a little bit of background, and at the time I had bought a church in New Orleans. I live in New Orleans, obviously.
Yes, love New
And
Orleans.
I bought a church in New Orleans, and I thought it would be kind of a neat addition to put it into the church.
The Church of
Um,
Manson.
Can I
I
just
didn't really think about it like that, but I just
interrupt
thought it
you
would be
for a
kind of
minute? I'm
interesting.
sorry. Can I just ask you though? The owner of the store, he owned a. I believe there was a medical office that was put in, and he was a doctor, and he owned that
He
door.
was a plastic surgeon.
Yes, yes. Was he aware of just how
Yes.
famous or infamous that door
Well,
was?
I'll tell you a little backstory on it. He told me this story when he first bought the building. He knew that Trent Reznor owned the building, and so he let his children kind of go through there and look for items. There wasn't anything very much important left, even though the studio was kind of just abandoned in 2004.
After Katrina,
The door
right?
was there before.
Oh,
He left.
before.
He left before. And contrary to popular belief, also there was no damage to the building really in Katrina and or the door. That's a little bit higher ground of New Orleans, and it didn't flood in that area. And so the door was just there when he bought the building. And originally they started gutting the building and do a typical. It's a plastic surgeon's office, so it used to be a mortuary, and it had a really kind of a beautiful building actually. And they kind of do what they do with the stucco on the front and aluminum windows. And they had taken all the stuff out of there, and including the door, and they had thrown it in the trash. And I think it was either one relative, I'm not sure, brother or something, said, the door, I believe, has a historical significance. You should get it out of the trash. And so he did. And he put it into his mother-in-law's house in Metairie, into her garage at her house. And it had just sat there. And so that's where I kind of came in when I had contacted him. He said, I do have the door. He goes, as a matter of fact, it's just sitting out in Metairie and collecting dust. And I said, okay. And I asked him if he would be interested in selling. And he said, I've had a couple of people ask. And he goes, I haven't really considered it much, but at this point in time, I would consider it. And so we just kind of went back and forth
Okay.
on negotiating for the door.
Would you want to
Um,
share how much you paid for that?
I
Or
won't say because I don't want him coming back and also especially after this auction of him coming back and saying, well, I think I deserve a little bit more money than that.
sure,
How people
sure,
are.
sure.
Because I'll give you a little bit of backstory on the deal. The day that we decided on a price, I said since he was only a couple blocks from my house, I said I'm going to just come over and bring you the cash right now. That way we can get it out of the way. I don't have to worry about it. And he said, don't worry about it. Nobody else is going to buy it. You just can wait. I'll see you on. We originally agreed on Monday, and then he had called back and said, we'll do it on Tuesday. And I said, well, I really want to get it taken care of. He's like, but don't worry about it. Just bring the cash Tuesday. And that Monday night, Charles Manson dies. So
Oh wow,
he
Wow.
says, I call him the
wow.
next day, and he says, I'm going to want more money for that door now. I was like, you got to be kidding me. But at that point in time, I was already in, so I was like, I'm
Yes,
not going to let it go.
timing is
And so
everything.
we had to renegotiate, of course.
Holy.
And then we came out, and, I brought a guy out with me, and we came out and picked up the door. And that's how I ended up with my position in my possession.
Okay, excellent. And you recently auctioned it off on September 8th this year,
I
2023.
did.
Okay.
Um, I what had happened was basically I was going to use it for the door in the church. One of the doors. I had a couple of doors I could choose from, but the HTLC wouldn't allow me to change any of the exterior of the building, and so they were like, "You can't change any doors. You can't do anything." They didn't know what kind of door I was going to use. It didn't matter, but I just couldn't use anything. Only existing products for the building. So I had it sitting there in the church, and I was kind of toyed over the idea of maybe letting it go because I really wasn't doing it justice by letting it just sit there and collect dust as it did before. And so I decided to possibly auction it off. Originally, I just thought maybe I'd find somebody to buy it, but I kind of went to a lot of dead ends I called a couple of appraisers and some people that
Mm-hmm.
might be able to put a value on it. No one would do it.
Mm-hmm.
And so I contacted a couple of auction places. Quite a few of them said absolutely not.
Sure.
But Julian's was pretty responsive about it, and they said we could give it a go. And
Okay.
so I decided to go with them. I had previously had dealings with a guitar through them, and they did a really good job of selling it. So I thought, why not?
I've worked with Julian's. Actually, as a fact, I back in 2018, Deborah Tate had put up a lot of Sharon Tate's clothes and personal belongings up for auction through Julian's, and I actually wound up purchasing a dress that belonged to Sharon, and I had a wonderful experience dealing with Julian's. They're very professional, and it was great. So yes.
What dress did you get?
Well, my bank account's not that big, so I actually purchased one of the unknown dresses, unfortunately. But it's a treasure to me to know that it belonged to her. It was just a purple dress, and obviously I could never fit in it given my size. She was like a stick figure, beautiful woman, but but it's just something that's precious to me, that I own one of her dresses. Yeah. So it cost a pretty penny, but it wasn't. It was something I could afford but couldn't afford, so to speak. But it's something I'll forever treasure. And speaking of that, I don't know if you can disclose who purchased the door or what their intentions are.
I don't have any idea.
Okay.
They don't tell you that information. So.
Oh, okay. Okay.
When I originally saw the listing and they said like it was estimated to go for like $4,000 or $6,000, I was ready to be like 10 grand. I will get into this. Like I will buy it. And I knew there was no way that it was going to go for that low. I knew it was people out there. It was going to be a bidding war.
They do a pre-auction actually, and it actually started. They didn't even contact me about that part. I didn't realize it was going to happen so quick, but it was about 2.5, 3 weeks before the auction started. Actually, maybe a month before the auction started. The first day there was, I think, about 5 bids, and those were the people that were like, "Hey, I'll pay $4,000 to $10,000 for it." And I think it went up to $20,000 the first day. Maybe the second day went up to 35, maybe 25,000, and then it kind of sat for a while. And then out of the blue, somebody bid another 10,000, and it was at 35,000. And then the day the auction actually started, it was already at 40,000.
Wow.
Yes, yeah.
Craziness.
So George, are you aware of who purchased the door?
Yes, I am the only one besides Julian.
Okay.
A friend of mine.
I'm sure you can't disclose that information.
He just said a friend of
he
his.
just wants to. He said someday, but right now he wants to be anonymous.
Okay. Do you know what the intentions are as far as?
The dude's dancing with it right now in his living room. Back in baby's arms.
He's still in shock over getting the door still. But
I'm sorry. Say that again.
He wants to take it in a nice, positive direction and not down the murder direction.
I like that.
And he had the door blessed by a Catholic priest.
Oh, that's great.
So that was kind of nice, and
yes.
For all the people that walk in and out that door. And
nice.
So anyway, we're still trying to kind of come up with ideas on what to do with it. You know. For right now, he's just excited that he has it.
That's good, and I'm glad that his intentions are pure. And
yes,
they're good, I find that important. Obviously, it has a very nefarious history, but I'm glad that we can look at it as a positive. You mentioned people who walked in and out of that house through that door. It's something the one thing I hate about this is and I've been in contact with several, with Deborah Tate through email or through, social media. It's a shame that when people think of Sharon Tate, that's immediately what they think of, is because her life encapsulated so much more. And she was a beautiful woman inside and out. She was, she was really starting her acting career. And I think she had a real knack for like comedies. And I think that, had she survived, who knows where her life would have taken her. I know she was so happy about becoming a mother from all accounts that I've read, and it's just a shame that this stigma is attached to her and her family. So
that's why I love the movie Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, because it gives you the what if, and it's an amazing ending, and the way that they were just like, okay, let's, what if this would have really happened this way?
Revisionist history, right, as Quentin Tarantino is so famous for.
Because originally when I went into that movie, I thought it was going to be like an exploitive, trip down like another tale of like another Manson movie or whatever, and I was pleasantly surprised.
Well, George, I think we share a common friend, Scott Michaels.
Uh-huh.
Yes, and I believe that Scott Michaels was a historian on the film. He was tapped by Quentin Tarantino, actually, to provide some background information. And I think one of the things that came out, Scott had mentioned this on his podcast, is where he may have mentioned it to me when I was there for the 50th anniversary, is that, you know, Quentin Tarantino actually sat down with Deborah Tate before he made the movie and gave her the whole premise of the movie and asked for her blessings. And I think she liked it and allowed it so much, in fact, that I think she even lent some clothes to some of the actresses,
Wow.
to Margot Robbie, to wear in the clothes to wear in the movie that belonged to Sharon. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, she was kind of slamming it at first, like she was all the other.
Mm-hmm.
Deborah Tate was kind of slamming it at first, but then she met up with Tarantino, wanted to talk to her, and after that, then everything kind of changed. So, you know, he assured her that it wasn't going to be, you know, a murder thing on Sharon Tate, you know. So, so I think she changed her mind, but you know, she wasn't liking that other one with Hillary Duff and.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't even give that a moment of my time.
Which one? The Hillary Duff one?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a
that
hard
was-
watch.
No, I can't.
The Haunting of Sharon Tate.
Yeah, it was terrible.
Yes.
I haven't seen it, so I
It's
don't know.
not worth it.
Yeah.
It didn't look that good.
I don't even think I finished it, to be honest with you.
No, it looked from what the clips I saw that I didn't like it. But
Stupid.
I'm not a big fan of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood either. To tell you.
Oh,
the
you don't
truth.
like that movie?
Oh, okay.
No, I wasn't a fan of it. But I mean, some parts, yes. I think the acting of Brad Pitt was excellent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, he deserved that award that he got. But I don't know. I don't.
you know, it's funny you say
like
that.
F word, you know, every other word. So, you know, it would
Oh,
have
that's
been nice.
Tarantino,
Yes.
yeah.
I would like to have more dialogue than that being said every other word in the movie.
Yes.
So,
Well,
Yes.
good thing for you that Samuel L. Jackson was not in the movie, because then it would have been even worse.
Yes. I mean, I don't know about you, George, but I mean, for me personally, like, I wanted to see it because of the history of it being the late 1960s, and they were going to cover that specific historical moment, you know, that nefarious part of, you know, history. And I wanted to see more of that. And I know that I know how Quentin Tarantino does his films.
yeah, I like nostalgia, and I wanted to see, and he did do, you know, great with the clothes and the cars and all.
Yes.
Some of the
The scene in Spawn Movie Ranch was
were great.
awesome. Like, it was so like a suspense. It was suspenseful, I thought.
but
I think it's one of his best work.
yeah, it was.
But, you know,
anyway,
To each his
Yeah.
own, I guess.
yeah, to each his own, and
Yes.
that's my opinion. So.
Yes. So, would you like to add anything, Christopher?
I liked the movie. It was okay.
Okay. Would you like to add anything else that you'd like to speak about with regards to the door? Or anything about anything at all? Or I don't want to put you on the spot, but
No, I'm just happy that it went to somebody that cares as much as I did about it.
yes.
I think that, you know, there was a big chance about the Zach Bagans getting it, and
Yeah.
everybody was like, "Please don't let him." I'm like, "Well, I have no control over it, obviously," and everybody didn't want it to end up at the
Yes.
Haunted Museum in Las Vegas.
Sure.
and
I just went to the
so,
Museum of Death in Los Angeles.
Yes.
And have you guys ever been there?
Well, there's
No.
one in New Orleans as well, and it's.
I've actually been to the one in
I
New
go by
Orleans.
it every day too. So
Yeah.
yeah, I've been to both of them.
Yes.
Yeah, I just went. I've always wanted to go, but like they were closed down for a while, and I had gone in December to LA, and this last trip I was only there like 2 weeks ago, and they were open, so I ended up walking through there, and yeah, I needed after I got out of there, I was in there for about 2 hours. I had to get a drink because there was
Yeah.
so much to take in and to see, and the whole they had a whole room of like the whole Manson thing, and they had like all kinds of pictures on display, and you know, it was pretty
It's
crazy.
pretty rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're native to California or in California at that time, I'm sure, you know, anyone that lived there remembers that case. I mean, that was just such a horrific case. It was all anyone talked about at that time.
It was
That's
great.
right.
Yeah, I was living there at the time, and 20 miles away from there. And but yeah, it was. I mean, you heard about that case until 1972, basically. I mean, it was like nonstop, and it was just it was a crazy time.
Yes, I'm
You
sure.
still hear about it. I mean, if Tarantino
Yeah.
only made that movie a couple of years ago, it's still relevant.
Yeah, you're still hearing a whole bunch of stuff about it. Their books.
If that door just sold for over $100 grand, it's
Yeah.
definitely still relevant.
Yes, for those of you that are unaware, yes, the door, Chris, did sell for 127,000. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes, yes.
Wow.
So, George, so last time I was up at Cielo was in 2019, as I said, for the 50th anniversary. Actually, Scott Michaels had done a lot of nice tributes that whole weekend in honor of Sharon, Jay Sebring, Wojtek Frykowski, Abigail Folger, and other victims as well, the LaBiancas, I believe now you can't even go up that road. I guess with all
blocked off.
with all the popularity of the movie that came out, and
Yeah.
You have to
I
hike
went.
it.
I went when I brought the door to L.A. I went up to the gate. That's as far as you can go, obviously.
Yes.
But you can get up to the gate still.
Yeah.
You have to walk
I
up
went
that
to
road,
the
though,
Gate
right?
at least,
Yeah, it says private property, but you can still go up there.
oh, you can
Sure.
still drive up there because I think
Oh,
they
yeah.
closed the road down.
No, I
Not
drove
that
up
I
there.
know of.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
Good.
couldn't drive up there the last time.
Oh, really?
Like
Okay.
in December, yeah. You have to walk up whatever that was.
Yeah. Oh, so yeah, you'd have to be at the bottom of
I went in
Benedict
July.
Canyon, and
Yeah. You
so.
could drive all the way up.
Oh, okay, good, good. It's funny, when I went up there, I did a little video in front of the house, and it was August 8th, and it was during the day, and the gate opened because there was a FedEx truck
Oh,
going
wow.
in, and I was able to get a little bit more video. I was like, I was so tempted to walk in, but I'm like, oh, I don't need to be arrested.
You could have went in.
Oh, please.
Christine
Oh,
jumped on
nobody
the back
would
of the
live
FedEx truck.
I was like, oh, this is great. The gate is opening. I'm like, yeah, it's just, but the
You were
house.
hanging off the back
I-
like the T2.
Yeah, yeah, right. Oh, nobody will notice me. So, but anyway, yeah. So it's just, but a lot of people say that whole area of Benedict Canyon is somewhat haunted. George, could you speak to that? Was it an old Native American burial ground up in that area?
Well, I don't know about that, but
Okay.
I know I've heard many stories about it being haunted, and I had found this picture years ago, and it looked like it had a flaw in it, so I was messing around with it, and I started looking at it closer, and it looked like a person, so I sent it off to this guy that x-rays pictures, and he said there's not only one ghost, but there's three, and one of them's a horse. And I had heard about a horse running around Benedict Canyon, a ghost horse.
Really?
So it was kind of cool, yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
I've heard, a lot of different stories about it being,
So, do you know David Oman at all?
No, I don't.
That's the guy down the road a little bit, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
I've actually been to David Oman's house. He has had the ghost hunters at his house and claims, I don't know what don't take this as fact, but he claims that his house is haunted, possibly by the ghosts of Sharon Tate and others that died that night, and Cielo Drive. I don't know. It's a bit of a stretch, but
Yeah, he's got her voice on recording, I think.
Oh, really? Okay. Yeah, I was inside David Oman's house. I can't really speak to it, but I was there. I guess he had something going on the night of August 8th, 2019 for the 50th anniversary. So he invited me, and yes, so very nice guy, David. Very nice.
Did you feel dizzy at all, or
I'm sorry?
did you feel dizzy at all? Because he said some people feel dizzy when they go down.
Oh, it's funny. I kind of did, but I think there was a lot of cigarette
Nerves.
smoke in the house, so that may have made me a little lightheaded. So I don't know, but
Liking the punch.
but no, I love David. He's
It's either
great.
the
Give him a
cigarette smoke or
shout
the
out.
brown acid. You just didn't know which one it was.
But I guess it's safe to say that our fascination with this case and with the house, I think it's a lot of people find it fascinating.
I never heard of these books. These are some amazing
well,
pictures.
George wrote these books. Yeah, he's done all the history on these books.
Nice
And,
job, brother.
Yeah, your books really are
Thank you.
amazing. For anybody out there who's interested, I'll just hold this up. So this is the house of Sharon Tate. Okay, and it's just a beautiful book. It gives a lot of history of the house and just beautiful photos and maps and everything else and pictures of Sharon Tate.
I'm looking at this one.
Yes, and the other book that we have here. Oh, that's gorgeous.
Right?
Yes. So,
Yeah.
yes. So this gives you a little bit of a full view of the house.
That's a twin house, I think.
Oh, yes, the twin house. Okay, very nice. Yes.
Well, no, and then it wasn't exactly a twin. It was a lot smaller, and the floor plan was reversed, but they looked very similar.
And
built
they
the
just
same-
tore that house down, didn't they?
1990, I think, it was torn down.
The twin house.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
So what's going there?
Yeah.
They're building something?
Well, they have another house there now.
Okay.
They built another crazy mansion, so.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody is it like an actor or an actress that lives there, or just,
I don't know.
No?
I mean, you'd have to be to live there. They want like millions, 45 million, or I don't know, some ungodly amount. Just like the Jeff Franklin house, they want just about as much for that one,
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of crazy. But you'd have to be a movie star to.
Yes.
so what was it originally, like the last person to buy it? What was like the price on it then?
Oh wait, I have that information.
Do you?
I believe. So I believe Jeff Franklin had purchased it for. I believe it was 2.5 million. Was that correct, George? Or do you have?
Sounds about right.
Yes.
When was that?
That was in I believe 1990. I want to say 1994 that Jeff Franklin purchased the house.
Yeah, I think. Well, it started in '90. I think that house was actually built in '96. It was torn down in December of '93.
Okay.
And then it took a long time to build it. So, but.
Oh yeah, Villa Bella.
So yeah,
Yes.
so I think I've actually got a sign in that book, that the Purcell sign, and I think it's in the house of Sharon Tate.
Okay.
So yeah, it was 96 or somewhere in there, when it was finished, and when I think he took possession of it.
Yes. I know he keeps putting it up for sale, but he just.
Yeah, he keeps bouncing that price. 85 million was one time, and then it was
What?
5, and
Yes, and then I think.
I don't know if he'll ever. Well, he'll probably sell it, I imagine, eventually. But
Sure.
Is
sure.
that because people don't feel comfortable living there, or just can't afford it?
Wow.
I don't know. I think it's the real
It's
estate.
overpriced.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The price is
The taxes must be killer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be. Yeah, I looked it up one time. It was outrageous.
Yeah.
Oh, can't even.
I
Imagine.
mean, yeah, if it's $45 million, I can't imagine what the taxes per year would be.
Yeah,
It's got to
They
be
were-
something astronomical.
they were wanting like 200,000 a night to stay there. When they were
200?
like renting it out. It's crazy.
Wow. That's just.
I mean, if you got that, if you're at that point of your life, you have that money, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
So I believe when Bob Saget had passed away, obviously they had a wake for him and a ceremony, but I think they had a celebration of his life afterwards at the Cielo house.
Yeah, I heard that.
Yes. So.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. Because Jeff
Yeah.
Franklin owned the house, so he was a producer of Full House.
Oh.
And so they had invited all of Bob Saget's friends and family up to the house to have a celebration of his life, and
Oh.
but just a
Haven't
little
seen it.
tidbit of information.
Trying to
Yeah.
justify that price.
I guess so.
Bring in
Yes,
as many stars as possible.
sure. Why not? Milk 'em for every penny, right?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. But well, I want to thank you both for being on the show today. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge, your wealth of knowledge, and just your love of the house and the whole history of the house. I think the fascination with this house will never die down. No pun intended. But
No.
but I think people will always have some sort of affinity or liking to the house and its history, however nefarious that happens to be. But let's just hope that something positive happens with the door.
Yeah,
And,
I'm hoping that
yes,
too. So,
yes.
it's on its way of getting. Pretty soon, he'll open up about it.
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
sure he'll tell he'll want people to know who he is
Sure.
eventually, but
Sure.
I think he just wants to figure out what he can do with it first,
Okay.
and
So let me ask you, if anybody wants to purchase your book, can they find it on Amazon or?
no, it's just through Facebook, and
Okay.
they can. I have sales on them. The book company has these sales, and
Okay.
so I wait for the sales to come on. Otherwise, they're outrageously priced, like a house.
Okay. Well,
So
if you have a link that you'd like to share with me, I can certainly put it on my Facebook page and share it with the public if they want to acquire the book. And yeah.
yeah, they
So
can just come to Facebook, Tate Books, George Smith,
okay.
and they can they can message me there
Okay.
on my Facebook page, my Cielo page, and
All right.
but yeah, about 4 times, 5 times a year they have these sales, and I'll alert the people on Facebook about it. And but if they message me, then I can tell them more about it.
All
So
right. Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you both again for being on, and I
sure.
really appreciate it. And
Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you for having me.
all right.
Thank you
Well,
for
it's
having
my
me.
pleasure. All right. Have a great night, guys.
You too.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you both.
Yes, nice
Take
meeting
care.
you.
Thanks, guys.
All right, so that wraps it up for another edition of My True Crime Obsession. Thank you all for watching. I appreciate your support. And yes, remember that it's always about the victims. And I hope to see everybody again sometime soon. Please stay tuned because I have more guests coming our way in the month of October and November. So thank you guys for your support. Have a great night. This is My True Crime Obsession checking out. Take care, guys. Bye.